I will always question those in power and those making decisions over other people.
Are you gay? Well, no you're not. You'll never be gay enough. You touched a man once. You kissed a friend on the lips as a child, as part of a bet, and now you're forever tainted with the mortal sin of being straight. Sorry, gay, or should I say straight, but the only real gays, the only true gays, are those who I personally decide are gay. And you, madam, have a severely heterosexual aura, unlike my lesbian queen, Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, famous lesbian. Yes, she's only ever dated men as far as you know. And yes, she is perfectly happy apparently in a current relationship with Travis Kelce as far as you know. But she is a lesbian. The clues are all over the place. Her never saying she's a lesbian, for example, her exclusively dating men for another, it's all there. And I have a theory that I think you'll agree with because, let's be honest, everyone knows I'm right about everything. That Travis Kelce is actually a stone butch. Yeah, breathe it in. That's right, Swifties. I've finally proven once and for all that Taylor Swift is definitely a lesbian. Unlike those fake celebrity gays who only act like lesbians for the attention, like, you know, Chappell Roan. Only a straight woman would proudly and repeatedly call herself a lesbian, wave the lesbian flag on stage, make songs about being a lesbian, and ingratiate herself into the queer community. I'm sorry, Chappell Roan, if that is your real name, but a real lesbian would never be open about being a lesbian. No, not because it's something that you should be ashamed of. Wait, come back! I have a manifesto about all the references to cunnilingus and Nevermore. Wait! Fake lesbians and gala truthers. My name is Brigitte Empire, science and culture correspondent for the only newspaper in Britain that has the scoop on who is and who isn't a real lesbian in the year of our Lord 2024, the Daily Telegraph. As a British newspaper, it is up to us to hound any and every woman in the public eye into either depression or into an isolated tunnel in France with no cameras. God save the Queen. As such, we have been closely watching the efforts to shame Chappell Roan, Midwest princess, sleeper sensation, and gay icon of the pop music scene, into a mental breakdown for the crime of setting boundaries with her audience and being open about how isolating and terrifying fame can be. For these crimes, Chappell has, of course, been sentenced to public shame, personal attacks, accusations of being ungrateful and horrible to her fans, and even, in the most utterly depraved corners of social media, having her very identity be stolen from her. Because if you will not exist as a spectacle, an object for the public's amusement, if you will not abandon your personhood and become the circus, you do not get to decide who you are. You are not a human being. You are an object to be bought and sold. You are a spectacle. False choice in spectacular abundance. A choice which lies in the juxtaposition of competing and complementary spectacles, and also in the juxtaposition of roles, signified and carried mainly by things which are at once exclusive and overlapping, develops into a struggle of vaporous qualities meant to stimulate loyalty to quantitative triviality. This resurrects false archaic oppositions, regionalisms and racisms, which serve to raise the vulgar hierarchic ranks of consumption to a preposterous ontological superiority. In this way, the endless series of trivial confrontations is set up again. From competitive sports to elections, mobilizing a sub-lucid interest. Wherever there is abundant consumption, a major spectacular opposition between youth and adults comes to the fore amongst the false roles. False because the adult, master of his life, does not exist, and because youth, the transformation of what exists, is in no way the property of those who are now young, but of the economic system, of the dynamic of capitalism. Things rule and are young. Things confront and replace one another. Why do we feel like Chappell Roan does not belong to herself, but to the public? Do we see her as a spectacle, which is to say, as a commodity, to be accessed with money and attention, rather than as a person, for whom consent must be freely given, in order for us to get what many in society believe they are owed, just for giving her their time and their dollars?
This is quite overwhelming and quite scary. I think for someone who gets a lot of anxiety around people yelling at you, the carpet is horrifying.
Yeah.
And I yelled back.
Chappell, the front of the dress, please.
Chappell, turn towards us.
Not me. Chappell. I yelled back. You don't get to yell at me like that.
This is not new. Many before Chappell Roan have buckled under the weight of fame and the stripping of personhood that comes with a record company turning you from a human being into a product to be sold. Some did not survive. Kurt Cobain famously struggled with fame, hated being a spectacle, an idol, something his punk roots instinctively bristled against. He did not survive. Many take drugs to cope. Cobain, of course, but others too met their end abusing drugs. The lifestyle of constant touring, no privacy, constant attention, being too much for any human being to cope with. Jimi Hendrix, Amy Winehouse, on and on it goes.
I haven't felt the excitement of listening to as well as creating music, along with really writing something for too many years now. I feel guilty beyond words about these things. For example, when we're backstage and the lights go out and the manic roar of the crowd begins, it doesn't affect me the way in which it did for Freddie Mercury, who seemed to love and relish in the love and adoration from the crowd. Well, Kurt, so f***ing what? Then don't be a rock star, you ass. Which is something I totally admire and envy. The fact is, I can't fool you, any one of you. It simply isn't fair to you or to me. The worst crime I can think of would be to pull people off by faking it and pretending as if I'm having 100% fun. No, Kurt, the worst crime I can think of is for you to just continue being a rock star when you hate it and just stop. Sometimes I feel as I should have a punch-in time clock before I walk out on stage. I've tried everything within my power to appreciate it, and I do. God, believe me, I do, but it's not enough.
And yet, after all this, with all these bodies in its wake, nothing changes. The record companies rake in the money from turning people into products, and we forget the existential horror of the transformation of these artists from human beings into things to be stacked on shelves, bought and sold, to be made property, if only in the abstract. And yet we all know, don't we, that this is wrong?
And how fucking dare anyone out there make fun of Britney after all she's been through? She lost her aunt. She went through a divorce. She had 2 fucking kids. Her husband turned out to be a user, a cheater, and now she's going through a custody battle. All you people care about is readers and making money off of her. She's a human! What you don't realize is that Britney's making you all this money and all you do is write a bunch of crap about her. She hasn't performed on stage in years. Leave Britney alone! Please.
In 2007, Cara Cunningham, unfortunately known widely by her dead name with which she made her fame, posted a video to the primordial soup of early YouTube, one of the first of its kind, and one of the first to go truly viral. It was, of course, titled, "Leave Britney Alone." While at the time this video was shared and mocked for being ridiculous, I think a lot of us who didn't understand the sentiment at the time get it now in retrospect. Britney Spears was famously hounded by the press everywhere she went. She had partners turn against her, those she trusted most, from Justin Timberlake to former paparazzos, selling stories insulting her to the press, who would in turn follow her everywhere she went in public, snapping pictures and demanding she defend herself for the crimes they'd invented about her. The gossip press did not leave her alone, and they sent her spiraling, culminating, in the eyes of the press at the time, in her shaving her head, which she did in protest of this very behaviour, but which the press responded to by trying to turn her into a global laughingstock. Behind the scenes, she had been betrayed by the vast majority of the people in her personal life, and in the most on-the-nose expression of turning the artist into a commodity, her very freedom was taken away when a court put her under a conservatorship. For 14 years, Britney's life was controlled entirely by her abusive father, by order of state court. He controlled her life, her career, her relationships, and all of her money. Only after calls to free Britney went viral during the pandemic did most of us realize just how bad the situation was. Britney Spears had been denied her personhood for almost a decade and a half. Meanwhile, she was still bought and sold. Her image, her voice, what she represented, free to be exploited to line the pockets of millionaire record executives and her villain of a father, while she, Britney Spears the human being, was imprisoned, forced to put a smile on her face, made to sing and dance for those who took her freedom. It's not a news story, but it's one that many people thought was behind us in the 21st century. But the mechanisms that fuel the transformation of human beings into commodities is still in place, and sometimes they find ways to express themselves in similar ways, even if its most overt and most inhumane atrocities were abolished. Except in prisons. Look up the 13th Amendment. Cara Cunningham herself had a different sort of journey. Her fame trapped her in her own less acute version of the story of her idol. Shamed for her androgynous appearance and identity, she was pressured by her community both in real life and on the internet where she was now famous. And as many trans women do, she gave in to the pressure to become strong, to look masculine, to go as far from female as possible. And people praised her for it. Oh my god, she finally looks healthy. You know how it goes. For not being who she truly was. For conforming to their ideas of what a gay person should look like. She would eventually transition around the same time as a judge demanded that Britney Spears' conservatorship be ended. What hides under spectacular oppositions is a unit of misery. Behind the masks of total choice, different forms of the same alienation confront each other, all of them built on real contradictions which are repressed. The spectacle exists in a concentrated or a diffuse form, depending on the necessities of the particular stage of misery which it denies and supports. In both cases, the spectacle is nothing more than an image of happy unification, surrounded by desolation and fear at the tranquil center of misery. Despite being perceived as somewhat of an overnight sensation, Chappell Roan, born Kaylee Rose Anschutz, was signed to Atlantic Records almost a decade ago in 2015. Even her debut album and certified banger, Rise and Fall of a Midwest Princess, came out in 2023, and it was only 6 months later that her exponential rise would begin, starting with her touring with Olivia Rodrigo and appearing on both Stephen Colbert and NPR's Tiny Desk concert when many of us saw her for the first time. Her rise has been a pretty damning case study in what fame does to a person. For a decade she'd been performing, even signed to a major label, as a musical artist. She was pretty popular on TikTok too, and had a cult following for her music. And within a few months, she went from a darling of a small but passionate community to one of the biggest pop stars in the entire world. And she's been very frank about what that's felt like.
I don't care that abuse and harassment, stalking, whatever, is a normal thing to do to people who are famous or a little famous, whatever. I don't care that it's normal. I don't care that this crazy type of behavior comes along with the job, the career field I've chosen. That does not make it okay. That doesn't make it normal. It doesn't mean I want it. It doesn't mean that I like it. I don't want whatever the fuck you think you're supposed to be entitled to whenever you see a celebrity. I don't give a fuck if you think it's selfish of me to say no for a photo or for your time or for a hug. That's not normal. That's weird. It's weird how people think that you know a person just because you see them online or you listen to the art they make. That's fucking weird. I'm allowed to say no to creepy behavior, okay?
I miss just like walking around and being like by myself. I guess being by myself is what I miss.
I just feel a little off today because I think that my career has just kind of gone really fast and it's really hard to keep up. And so I just being honest that I'm just having a hard time today. I'm not trying to like give you like a lesser show. It's just like there's a lot on my mind. That's all.
I need you to answer questions. Just answer my questions for a second. If you saw a random woman on the street, would you yell at her from the car window? Would you harass her in public? Would you go up to a random lady and say, "Can I get a photo with you?" And she's like, "No, what the fuck?" And then you get mad at this random lady? Would you be offended if she says no to your time because she has her own time? Would you stalk her family? Would you follow her around? Would you try to dissect her life and bully her online? This is a lady you don't know. And she doesn't know you at all. Would you assume that she's a good person? Assume she's a bad person? Would you assume everything you read about her online is true? I'm a random bitch. You're a random bitch. Just think about that for a second, okay?
Many people obviously didn't react well to these words. To people who've absorbed the mentality that women in the public eye are commodities and not people, it's intolerable to be told that you cannot buy their time, their attention, their love with your money. It's intolerable to be confronted with the fact that you require their consent to interact with them. And yet, while people get increasingly agitated about someone whose music they appreciate setting boundaries, as if a slight has been made against them personally by demanding they be treated as a human being instead of a piece of art or, God forbid, a can of food on a shelf to be bought and consumed, Chappell Roan has, in her own words, had people follow her, find out where her parents live, where her sister works, actively putting her family at risk because they believe they are owed her attention. They bought Chappell Roan, the commodity, and they cannot accept that there is a real human being behind that stage name.
People start to be freaks.
Yeah, they
follow
get real.
me.
Yeah, they follow
and like
you around.
follow like know where my parents live and like where's my sister works, like all this weird.
No bueno, not happening.
This is the time when I was like a few years ago that I said if stalker vibes, like family was in danger, is when I would quit. And like we're
Me
there.
too, same.
We're there.
More recently, Chappell Roan has been open about her feelings that fame is abusive. The vibe of this? Stalking, talking shit online, people who won't leave you alone, yelling at you in public? Is the vibe of an abusive ex-husband. That's what it feels like. I didn't know it would feel this bad. The Kaylee side of her still craves the idol of anonymity. Off hours, she's been caught by fans practicing somersaults in Central Park and racing shopping carts on IKEA, but such bursts of spontaneity are getting rarer. These days, she almost always has to wear a wig in public. She even had to let her therapist go after realizing they were no longer equipped to deal with her rapidly accelerating fame. And it's getting scary, actually. There are now paps, scalpers, and obsessives who buy plane tickets just so they can wait at the gate for where she lands. For every unicorn of a young star with the power to command gigawatts of attention, there's a seedy microeconomy sprouting around and glomming on. Take, for example, a recent encounter at the airport. I get out of the car. It's 5:30 in the morning, and there's two guys waiting with a bunch of posters and shit for me to sign, Chappell says, her voice tightening again. I know they're not fans. I said no. I was like, I don't sign anything at the airport. I'm sorry. One of them follows me to the TSA lines, starts yelling at me, and everyone just turns and looks. He's like, you should really humble yourself. Do you know where you are right now? Don't forget where you came from. I'm just like, what the fuck is going on? I told myself, if this ever gets dangerous, I might quit. It's dangerous now, and I'm still going, but That part is not what I signed up for. Chappell is right to be concerned. This is the same monster that has driven many before her to depression, to substance abuse, and worse. If we are to believe his diaries, this is part of what drove Kurt Cobain over the edge. Part of what made Britney Spears a slave to her own father, because she dared to react in kind to the abuse she received. And beyond the people we talk about all the time in these stories, those whose names are practically legend, there are more still that we don't talk about, who didn't survive the unwilling transformation from human into spectacle, into commodity. Christina Grimmie was a singer who'd made her fame on YouTube and competed in the reality competition show The Voice. One fan of hers, Kevin Loibel, had, over the course of a few years, become obsessed with Christina. According to a friend, he watched her videos all day. He got surgery, teeth whitening, hair implants, and lost weight in anticipation of meeting Christina, who he was convinced would agree to a relationship with him. When confronted about how unrealistic this was, he broke off all contact with the friend who gave this information. He had consumed as much of Christina Grimmie the commodity as perhaps anyone in history. But he only knew her as a product. He had no regard for the feelings or autonomy of Christina Grimmie the person, someone he did not know, who did not owe him anything for the attention he'd given. He had not bought a human being, but she was no human being to him. She was a corporate product, and by giving her the most attention he could, he'd bought her. Now he wanted to take her home. In a meet and greet after one of her shows in Orlando in 2016, Loibel shot Christina 3 times before taking his own life. Every given commodity fights for itself, cannot acknowledge the others, and attempts to impose itself everywhere as if it were the only one. The spectacle, then, is the epic poem of the struggle, an epic which cannot be concluded by the fall of any Troy. The spectacle does not sing the praises of men and their weapons, but of commodities and their passions. In this blind struggle, every commodity, pursuing its passion, unconsciously realizes something higher, the becoming world of the commodity, which is also the becoming commodity of the world. Thus, by means of a ruse of commodity logic, what's specific in the commodity wears itself out in the fight, while commodity form moves towards its absolute realization. So, do you guys know what Gala is? For those of you that are blessedly unaware, there is a large fandom on the internet centered around QAnon-level conspiracy theories finding clues in Taylor Swift's work, fashion, interviews, everything, that prove, apparently, that she is hinting to her fan base that she is gay, even while she publicly is very much not. Now, that is not to say that she might not come out later in life. Lots of people do. Chappell Roan, for instance. But she's pretty vocal about being an ally, and for now, we should believe her that she's a straight woman until we're told otherwise. Because she's a human being that deserves a private life, and not a product that you have bought and now owes you every detail about everything they've ever done. Although, given how much she goes around in a private jet, essentially speeding up our planet's demise, I would forgive you for giving her a little less grace than most women in the public eye.
Taylor Swift just released a new song, and she's coming out!
As a lesbian?
Yes, as a lesbian!
Okay.
And she's always been!
Okay. All right.
It's called Rainbow Dress.
Hot summer June, sleepless afternoon.
June?
Wearing my rainbow dress.
Is this Taylor?
So
She sounds bad.
Listen.
Like the vocals sound bad. And
Jonathan Van Ness.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
I
Her best
wanna
friend.
have straight sex at the gay
Was it straight sex? That's not so gay.
It doesn't sound that gay.
She's at the Gay Pride Parade.
It's very confusing, this song.
Yeah. I wish there was straight pride at the gay pride parade.
It's like a right-wing talking point.
If you guys are gonna listen,
No.
I'm
Okay,
gonna
no,
stop
all right.
playing it.
We'll listen.
The point is that there is a large group of Taylor Swift fans who are trying their very best to fit this presumably straight woman into a lesbian-shaped hole, because they've devoted all of their free time to bigging up Taylor Swift, and they are gay, so they need her to be gay as well, because she's not a human being with her own feelings, but instead a doll to be played with. She is not in control of her own fate, because you have bought her fate by buying tickets to her shows, streaming her music, buying her merch.
It gets me so angry. On behalf of them, I feel passionate, not gay. So I pray for them and I say for them, we need to make a change, not gay.
There's a weird contradiction in the way fans react to Taylor Swift, which is simultaneously reminiscent of the same dehumanizing attitude people like Britney Spears received, and a kind of godlike worship. Taylor Swift must be everything, because she is a modern-day deity. You hear her everywhere. You see her everywhere. She has the power to sway elections. And if you're like me, and you're thinking, Sam, there's a really good story in there somewhere, it exists. It's called The Wicked and the Divine, and it's a comic book series by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvie. I own all of it. As promised, not full of shit, is the entire Wicked and the Divine series. Would highly recommend, especially if you like the premise that I just described. Kieran Gillen, follow me on Twitter. In The Wicked and the Divine, every 90 years, 12 gods are reincarnated as humans. They are loved. They are hated. In 2 years, they are dead. The series deals with the idea of celebrities as gods and all that entails. The loss of their identities, their humanity, the hero worship, the belief that you are owned by others, that you belong to them, even as you hold immense power over them. The contradiction between the public scrutiny and the absolute power. I was thinking about this series a lot in relation to the different reactions people have had to Taylor Swift not coming out as a lesbian, and Chappell Roan being very open about being a lesbian, how hard it was for her to come out, and how she still struggles with it. While Chappell Roan is giving interviews with, say, People magazine that read, according to Roan, whose real name is Kaylee Emstertz, she thought there was something wrong with her. Finally, it's like, oh, I know why. It's because I'm gay and nothing's actually wrong with me, she told the publication. I just wasn't supposed to be sleeping with men, and now I'm a little repulsed at the thought of even kissing a guy, because no one's going to be as good as girls. Roan realized she had a lot of shame around her sexuality, and had to do a lot of unlearning from her Christian upbringing. There are a set of online gays dismissing this out of hand. They do not worship Chappell Roan. They worship a different god. They worship Taylor Swift. And one such fan took to twitter.com to accuse Chappell Roan of performing the lesbian thing, while calling Taylor Swift real lesbian music. While elsewhere on that absolute shithole of a website, people are saying that Taylor Swift has proven definitively that she is a lesbian by wearing a dress that looks like Scotch tape and making references to an albatross. I don't know what this means. Like, you have a gay pop star right there. We have gays at home, but instead of just accepting that, you're harassing her because she's not Taylor Swift? The Taylor Swift you've been a loyal customer of for a decade couldn't possibly not be gay because you've invested so much time in trying to mirror yourself onto her. Meanwhile, this new product has appeared on the shelf claiming to be a gay, but I'm not wasting my money on her. I've already sunk too much money into this Taylor Swift thing. Or, as this incredible Twitter account put it, she was engaged to a moid. He broke up with her, and a lot of her songs were originally about men. And I think Taylor is a lesbian, but has been forced into the closet and has been trying to signal her sexuality for a decade.
Just seems not gay, wrong, not gay, that no one seems to care. Sports.
You're gay. You're gay. You're gay. You're gay. You're gay.
Putting aside that Chappell has been very open about having written songs about men because she wasn't out at the time and has since come out since writing these songs, and the fact that this Twitter account, despite using it as an example, can't possibly be talking about super graphic ultra modern girl, which might as well be a song just called I Want to Date a Woman, why would you use the fact that Chappell used to date men as proof that she's not a lesbian when Taylor Swift is currently dating a man? And this whole denial of gay card because you slept with a man once is just gold starism, which is extremely problematic and has its roots in extremely sexist attitudes of the past. A gold star lesbian, unfortunately for all those you don't know I'm about to inform you, is a lesbian who's never slept with a man. As if no lesbians come out later in life, experiment, have one-night stands that they later regret, or that bisexual people are somehow lesser, and as if the notion of PIV being some sort of sacred act that robs a poor virginal woman of her purity and makes her a sinner forever that is laid with a beast is true? As if a woman's sexuality is defined by her proximity or relationship to penises, rather than by herself, because men do not give women agency. Women have agency in and of themselves. This centering of PIV is something that excludes you from the sort of VIP, ooh, that's an interesting mirror. This centering of PIV as something that excludes you from some sort of VIP lounge in the gay bar is ridiculous, and relies on the idea that heterosexual sex is inherently life-changing and sacred, as opposed, of course, to gay sex, which is somehow something entirely different and doesn't affect you spiritually at all. It fundamentally accepts the conservative idea that every adult's morality is determined by if they have had PIV and how much they have had. And putting a gay twist onto it doesn't make that idea any less conservative, especially when it's used to gatekeep actual queer people from their communities so that you can signal your distaste for their art, as if you can deny a person access to community and culture in the same way you refuse to buy their products. Beyond the denial of Chappell Roan's queerness by queer people in other fandoms are the same social conservatives that have been obsessed with the idea that people come out as queer for the attention for decades, or even, to show their hand as conservatives, for male attention. As if the best way to get male attention is to refuse to date men. As if women can't love women unless it's in the context of loving men. As if men, again, are at the centre of every woman's personality, the focal point of her every decision in life. Some of these people are the same people that believe being gay is a choice, or that it's some sort of perversion or sin. Or even if they do actually believe it's for attention, they are making the same tired conservative arguments that have been around since humanity made the mistake of inventing cities instead of touching grass for a living. When I was growing up, all the people that came out as bisexual when I was a teenager and were accused of doing it for the attention are still bisexual years and, in fact, decades later. And then you have the people who are questioning Chappell Roan's queerness because they don't agree with her politics.
Endorsing and voting are completely different. I don't agree with a lot of what is going on with, like, policies. Like, obviously, fuck the policies of the right, but also fuck some of the policies on the left. That's why I can't endorse. That's why I can't, like, put my entire name and my entire project behind one. Because there is no way I can stand behind some of the left's completely transphobic and completely idle views. So yeah, there are huge problems on both. You know what is right and wrong, and so do I. Fuck Trump for fucking real, but fuck some of the shit that has gone down in the Democratic Party that has failed people like me and you. And more so, Palestine. And more so, every marginalized community in the world. So no, I'm not gonna settle for what the options that are in front of me. And you're not gonna make me feel bad for that. So yeah, I'm voting for fucking Kamala. But I'm not settling for what has been offered, because that's questionable. It's questionable that our actions of our government, the actions of the internet, the actions of you and me. If this is what you are not understanding, you know what? Endorsing someone, if someone is publicly endorsing a political figure, that doesn't even mean that they're gonna fucking vote for them. Because as I said in my other video, actions speak louder than words. And I'm not gonna let this narrative of like me not playing both sides. No. This is not me playing both sides. This is me questioning both sides because this is what we have in front of us. So if you look at my statement and you're still like, she's just playing both sides, like she doesn't wanna, no, you're not getting it. I'm critiquing both sides because they're both so fucked up. Voting is all we have right now in the system. And so I encourage it, yet again, vote for who, in your mind, is the best option for what we have right now. Because it's all we can do. And I hope this makes it clear that no, I'm not picking the sides of what we have right now. Yes, one's obviously better than the other. But Jesus fucking Christ, I hope you don't settle for what we have and put your name behind someone that you don't fully trust because of their blatant actions.
This exploded in the wake of an interview in which Chappell Roan was asked why she didn't endorse Kamala Harris in the upcoming US presidential election, something Taylor Swift had made headlines for doing a few weeks prior. Roan, quite rightly, said that she had many issues with the current government, and many things would have to change for her to feel comfortable doing such a thing. But because she said in that quote that there are problems on both sides, centrist gays took to the internet to take away her gay card, accusing her of being a Republican and generally massively ignoring the context of Chappell Roan being a prolific supporter of Palestine, and of a pretty notable event in her rise to fame when she was invited to perform at the White House, and when she made clear to her team that she was going to protest instead, refusing to sing and reading Palestinian poems, was essentially told, if you do that, the United States government will end your career and put you and your whole family in danger. Why would you support a government that did that to you? Never mind tell everyone else to support them. Never mind that the government has done what the current regime has done to arm and give cover to what's happening in Palestine and now Lebanon. But no, it couldn't be any of that. Instead, we have completely cool and normal takes like,
is Chappell Roan actually queer, or is she just a culture vulture?
The whole thing seems performative to me, but she seems to fancy herself a very deep and serious artist.
How are you queer? An ardent defender of the drag community, and somehow on both sides a bad person.
Chappell Roan is an embarrassment to lesbians.
I'm tired of artists like Chappell Roan profiting off queer and drag culture and then refusing to do the bare minimum when it comes to standing up for LGBTQ rights. Because she's probably afraid of getting cancelled by a small portion of the internet or is just uneducated.
Hey gays, we should expect better of the people whose careers we finance.
She's gonna be singing Pink Pony Club at the gay concentration camps when Kamala loses.
Right. Or maybe we should instead actually consider that she never said anything like what any of you guys are implying. In fact, she's been extremely vocal that she's not a Republican or even close. She just so happens to draw a red line at a certain word that begins with a G. And the fact that you all don't, and apparently the exact opposite, is kind of fucking worrying. And if you look at the way some of these so-called fans of Chappell Roan are acting, they're not acting like they're hearing a person's opinion. They're acting like a disgruntled customer demanding their money back. And if you just looked at her full quote, you would understand that she's not the person you all just assumed she is based on one social media post. As the interview that kicked all this off in The Guardian reads, for every UK tour ticket sold, £1 goes to the LGBTQ+ rights charity Kaleidoscope Trust. And at the merch stand in Manchester, there are signed risographs prints selling for £100, with protests going towards aid for Palestine. Wearing charity shop costumes, fans Kenza and Freya say they admire Roan's values. She's probably the only artist that's really standing up for things that no one else is wanting to talk about. It's just my duty to help send resources to a community that's absolutely being destroyed. And even though Kamala Harris used her deliriously goofy feminine omenon in a campaign video and seemingly copied the design of an official Roan baseball cap, Roan hasn't endorsed her. And in June, while dressed as Lady Liberty, Roan told the crowd at the Governor's Ball Festival in New York that she'd declined an invitation to perform at a White House Pride event. We want liberty, justice, and freedom for all. When you do that, that's when I'll come. I have so many issues with our government in every way, she says. There are so many things I would want to change, so I don't feel pressured to endorse someone. There's problems on both sides. I encourage people to use your critical thinking skills. Use your vote. Vote small. Vote for what's going on in your city. The change she wants to see in the US this election year, she says instantly, is trans rights. They cannot have cis people making decisions for trans people, period. Not exactly the words of a Republican, eh? Again, Chappell Roan is not a product to be bought and sold. And neither, unfortunately for the Scotch tape industry, is Taylor Swift. Even the most problematic artists in the world are still first and foremost human beings, with all the good and the bad that entails. Being an artist does not make you a product. Or at least, it shouldn't. This society, which eliminates geographical distance, reproduces distance internally, a spectacular separation. That quote, and the quotes earlier in the video that you might have noticed I've been dropping in, are from critical theorist DeBord's seminal work, The Society of the Spectacle, which I have here, peeking out of its dust jacket in what is just a very satisfying detail of this little book. In this book, DeBord is not simply talking about the spectacle as in the Coliseum, the Super Bowl, or the Taylor Swift concert, but how contemporary consumer culture and the commodification of so much of our society has replaced relationships between people with our relationships to commodities. Tying back to the wicked and the divine, as well as the response to Chappell Roan's pushback against being made commodity instead of person, DeBord compares the role of marketing and the way products and media are sold to the everyman to the role of religion throughout history, where waves of enthusiasm for a given product can produce moments of fervent exaltation, similar to the ecstasies and the convulsions and miracles of the old religious fetishism. And while the commodity is made into an almost godlike spectacle, to be worshipped, to be considered, to be pondered over. The relationship of the celebrity to the commodity they represent is what I'm stuck on here. A commodity, designed to make profit for those who own the means of production through its sale, is, by definition, a cog in the machine of the capitalist world. This is Muffin, he pees on everything. Say hello, Muffin. Say hello to the camera. When that commodity is a person, they are denied their personhood even while it is used due to the transformation into a product. Even if it is just your image or your voice, which is transformed to be bought and sold and made into a spectacle. And when you're as widespread a product as, say, Coca-Cola, even if you are a human named, say, Taylor Swift, the image of you, the product that they are selling with your face, your name, your voice, is made into an object of worship, even as you are alienated from it, even as you lose your humanity, in some sort of sick ascension from the mortal world to the production line. This is a process that needs ending. People, what are you doing? See how happy he is with this very awkward pose. I wonder if you get this purr around cam on audio. This is a process that needs ending. People should not have to put up with this. Even rich people. I know, but why would you eat Taylor Swift? Now Travis Kelce, he grilled pretty nice. What was I saying? Oh yeah, possible controversial opinion. People shouldn't be made into products, even at this abstract level. We should be able to perform art without being made into a commodity on the global market. Art should not be, ideally, for profit at all. We should be able to make art for art's sake, just to express ourselves without worrying about how we're going to make ends meet, to truly make what's in our hearts. And this is even worse for art that's made as a commodity first, and treated as art second. And that extends to the artist too. If someone can sing, that doesn't mean that they should be treated as if they are a product now, that they should have no private life, that their attention should be able to be bought and sold lest they be seen as ungrateful. I'd love to live in a world where we can enjoy Chappell Roan's music, and if we see her in the supermarket, we leave her the fuck alone. Because why would you harass someone just out buying groceries? Unless someone's explicitly told you can approach them in public, if you don't know them personally, just fucking don't approach them. It's not difficult. And I should know. I spent a whole week volunteering at Worldcon and had lunch on the table next to George R.R. Martin a bunch of times, because there were only so many tables in that food area. And you know what? Despite being the kind of nerd that can name every single side character in A Song of Ice and Fire off the top of my head, I didn't bother him, because he was catching up with his friends, and he'd said on his blog to please not approach him. Still, one day I was walking from panel to panel and saw him on a bench by the food stands, and he was just sitting down, I think waiting for someone to get out of the toilet or checking his phone, and a crowd gathered around him. A crowd of strangers, much younger than him, around my age, not talking to him, not asking for anything, just circling him, surrounding him, staring at him like he was an animal at the zoo. This is not something human beings evolved to cope with. And trying to comprehend it, trying to stop it once it started, can destroy you. Or at the very least, it will lead to backlash from the very people who minutes before were looking at you like some sort of demigod. Just as easily as they can cast you into the heavens, they can cast you out of it. They can tear that godhood away. It breaks the illusion. And by the illusion, I mean the lie that people tell themselves, so that they can stay in their semi-religious parasocial relationships with megastars. The idea that they know you, maybe better than they know themselves. Because who really knows themselves? But they know you. They've been told by the magazines what you're like, and they've bought you with their hard-earned money. But they can't buy you. They cannot take your personhood away. Leave Chappell Roan alone. Leave her alone. She's a human. And until we destroy this society of the spectacle and create a world where people do not have to give up their very sense of personhood to just be allowed to make a living making art, thank you for watching. They don't get the wrong idea. I hope you know that I'm not queer. I never
R&O, hairy chest and nice BO. Guys who want to suck your toes, that's what I want, hetero. HETERO, hairy chest and nice BO. Guys who want to suck your toes, that's what I want, hetero. Jesus fucking Christ. HETERO, you got me, I'm hetero. HOMO, that's a no. My Kinsey scores his 0. What's it take to earn my gay card? Don't want to be straight no more. What's it take to win you over? Don't make me hetero. HETERO, hairy chest and nice BO. Guys who want to suck your toes, that's what you want, hetero. HETERO, you got me, I'm hetero. HOMO, no homo. My Kinsey score is 0. Taylor Swift is much higher. Taylor Swift? The fuck is Taylor Swift? Hey, thank you for watching this video all the way to the end. If you like this video, why not give it a like on the YouTube? There's a button for that. Ring a bell. I've never asked anyone to do that before. That feels fucking weird. Leave a comment, and that helps it in the algorithm. Please do that, even if you just put like a dot or say like Chappell, or what should people say? Muffin, what should people say? Muffin. He's not talking to me. He doesn't speak English. Subscribe. Tell your friends about it. You can also go to Coffee or PayPal, links below as always, to give me a little donation, or you can sign up to my Patreon or my YouTube memberships, which is even better, because then you get early videos, access to the members only Discord, my Nintendo Switch friend code. Maybe I'll add my Steam code to that. People let me know if they want my Steam friend code. Is that a thing you can do? I'm assuming it's a thing you can do. And exclusive content such as long-form interviews with some of your favourite YouTubers. In addition to all that good stuff, you'll also, most importantly, get your name read out at the end of each video, just like these lovely people who are the reason why I can feed this cat that's currently asleep on my arm. Based Finger, Madeline Aguirre, Ben Murphy, Lex Phoenix, Enter Cursitz, Janelle, Mira D, Jade Senior, Boa Ear, James W, Marva and Orr, Tamsin, Bob the Builder 5445554, Deborah Laboon, Vegas, Zilla's Athenium, Vince Whitaker, Amelia Unchained, Sarah, Jason Haig, Frank McManus, Susan Foster, Helen Arial, Sierra Whiskey, Orestria, Ali Catgirl, John N, Scully, Jan, Lloyd Luciente, Jason Cribbett, Shield Thaden, Robin Podolsky, Casual Observer, Manta Ray, Courtney Burmack, Sleepy Slug, Philippa Tabrogga, Seymour Piglet, Brain Douche, Artie Wolf, Greg Noble, Deanna McMillan, Caroline Regalado, Alexandra Lilly, Howard Lott, Narania, Scarjan, and Joey Copperboard. Thank you, hello. Thank you so much for watching this. Woke up Muffin there, you can already see that. I don't know if maybe I'll put him in. I mean, he's been sitting there long enough, it would be weird if I didn't put him in. I hope you didn't see too much of his bumhole. I really didn't want that on camera, but for some reason he insisted on just walking immediately with his bumhole in the air. He's a very strange animal. On the other side, if anyone knows how to stop an animal peeing everywhere, I would appreciate the advice. Also, Turb, if you're watching this and I got the upload before you, I win. I win. And if I didn't, I suck. And in the One Piece video, I will put on a silly costume to concede that you won the race to get your Chappell video up first. Okay, bye-bye.